can see the introduction and know when I can come in. So anyway, welcome to all of our market rebels. And today is a very special day for a number of reasons. First of all, June 1st is always the kickoff to our hurricane season down here in South Florida. And of course, right on schedule, got hit with a more of a tropical storm, but kind of escaped with just a lot of rain. So certainly no troubles there. Number two, Rafa won the French Open. So super psyched about that. But even more important, today is the first day we are streaming live. So we have not only our market rebels, but we have people on YouTube and on Twitter who are able to join us. So that's super exciting. So if you are watching from either of those venues, it is great having you here. This is something we started back in May that was supposed to only be just for the month, help traders through the volatile markets. It was very well received, so we've decided to keep going. So the idea of this is that it's just little trading tune-ups, little tidbits, little golden nuggets of trading advice designed to help you become better traders and investors. So they're not full-blown training sessions. So there's a lot of things that you're probably going to say, I don't quite follow it. And that's fine. It's just to open your eyes to new ideas about options. So we're going to be doing lots and lots of things, everything from strategies, technical indicators, charting, you name it, we are going to be talking about it here. So please invite all of your friends, send the links. I'd love to get this to be a really, really big program. So for today, what are we going to be talking about? Well, keeping with our theme with volatility, let's talk about using vertical spreads during high volatility. Now, vertical spreads, I think most traders know and love verticals. They are extremely powerful because they're so versatile. And once you understand vertical spreads, you'll say, oh, well, if we spread a spread, we can go into butterflies or into condors. They are really building blocks of other kind of more sophisticated strategies, but if you understand them as verticals, they're really very easy. But one of the things that I think traders overlook with verticals is they don't understand different ways of mixing and matching the strikes. During high volatility, a lot of times they want to just widen out those strikes. Make them 10, 20, 40 points wide because they'll say, well, under high volatility, there's more of a chance for the stock to reach there. And that's true, but as I always teach, there are trade-offs, and you have to understand what the trade-offs are to make the best decision. So let's go find out what they are. So what we're going to do is to compare two vertical spreads, and what I've done is I've run this through a pricing model, and I put the stock at 100 and volatility at 40%. I think I had interest rates at 0. But the point is that these are coming from a pricing model. They're not made up. So we're kind of comparing apples to apples. So under this scenario, we had 45 days to expiration. The $100 call is worth $5.60. And the 105 call is worth $3.58. And the 110 call is worth $2.18. So we can mix these up any way that we want. And something we'll be talking about in future classes are different pricing principles. We see that lower strike calls, right? So if we have the same expiration date, the 100 call should be worth more money. And we see that it is. It should be worth more than the 105. The 105 should be worth more than the 110. And that's because a lower strike call option gives you the right to pay less for the stock. And that is a benefit. And whenever you have a benefit in the market, you should know it's going to come with a higher price tag. You have to pay for a benefit. So that's going to be important coming up here shortly. So let's take a look at a 100-105 vertical. All right, so if we pay $5.60 for the 100 and we sell the 105 for $3.58, that's $2.02. It would cost you $2.02. So I think most of you know that's really times 100 because each contract controls 100 shares. So you're talking about really a couple $100 plus commissions. But we're also going to compare it to a 100-110 vertical. So this is now 10 points wide. That would be 342. But the thing is let's compare two of them. All right, so if we go back to this, again, what a lot of traders will do is they'll say, should I do the 100-105? Or if I spread it out to the 110, I can now make 10 points, right? The spread can be worth the difference in strikes. So with the 100-105, we have the right to pay 100, the obligation to sell for 105. That's 5 points. And if we pay 202, we can make the balance. But again, during high volatility, traders will say, well, if I pay 100 and I sell or buy the 100 and sell the 110, now I can make 10 points. And because we're in a high volatility environment, there is a better chance for the stock to get to 110. So let me spring for the extra money here and make it 10 points wide. Possibly. We have to understand what the trade-offs are. And we're going to do that by comparing two spreads. Let's buy 2 of the 100-105 verticals. So that's going to be 2 times 202 or 404. This is where most people never think to explore new opportunities. Because if I buy 2 5-pointers, I have the ability to make 10. Okay, so that's one thing we have to figure out. How do these behave, though? Are there going to be, well, there are definitely going to be differences, but what are those differences? And this is what you need to understand to become better traders. So our max gain would be 2 times 298. Now, where is that coming from? Again, if you pay 202 and the spread can be worth 5, 5 minus 202 would be 298. So you're basically paying 2 and making 3, but we're doing it twice. So now the maximum gain would be 6. We're paying 4 to make 6 roughly. But if we buy the 100-110 for 342, we could make the maximum gain because it could be worth 10, right? We have the right to pay 100 and the obligation to sell for 110. That's 10 points, for which we're paying 342. The max gain is 658. But right off the bat, you look at this, you go, there's not a big difference. One is going to cost us 596, almost 6. One's going to cost us 658. So let's do this from 45 days out. Now, the reason I took 45 days, even though there's a lot of good reasons for trading spreads longer into the future, which is something we'll talk about in the future. But a lot of times traders say, well, if they're going to max out to the difference in strikes early, I should only be doing a 5-day spread or a 7-day spread, and those can be really dangerous. A lot of times you're going to be better off trading them outer, longer dated, and then closing them prior to expiration. But those are things we'll talk about in the future. But the main reason I did this is to show you what happens as you start pushing those expiration dates out. Take a look at the 2 curves here. Now, these are what we call current curves. This is our risk graph based on 45 days to expiration. And if you look at this through the center, they are almost identical. That's pretty interesting. They're almost identical. Now, over here on the left, we can see the blue curve sits a little bit lower, and that's a dead giveaway that must be the 100-105, because we have a much higher chance of the stock going to 105 than we do going to 110. It's a benefit to have our trade max out at 105 rather than needing the stock to go to 110. And again, you have to pay for that benefit. So we can see that it's going to cost us more money, but it's not a lot more. So we can see that if we get a fast, aggressive move, virtually no difference between them, just lots of deltas and not a lot of difference. But what if we don't get that fast, aggressive move? This is really part of the point of this presentation. Yeah, of course, you think that it's going to have this fast, aggressive move because things are so volatile, but what if it doesn't work out? Or, in this case, we're bullish. What if the stock does go up, but then comes back down, back up, sits sideways, back down, the things we've seen before? That's why it's called a volatile market. And then you're going, okay, well, there goes my thesis. I thought it was going to go straight up to the moon, and it just didn't. See, when you do the 2 smaller spreads, you have an escape hatch. And here's what's going to happen. Here's our 404. There's our 342. It's a difference of 62 cents. Not a huge difference in terms of dollars. But with 30 days, okay, so 15 days have passed, and look what's happening. Still not a big difference. But as we get closer to expiration, now we're within 15 days, and here's the thing that people don't realize. The blue curve is going to start maxing out sooner. All right, and this is because, watch what happens. Our deltas are going to hit 105 or are going to hit 100 if the stock is 105. Remember, these are stock prices across the horizontal. So if the stock is 105, our 100-105 vertical spread is behaving just like we want it to, but not so for the 100-110. We would need the stock up to 110 before it's going to start hitting maximum gain. So look what happens with only 5 days to expiration. See that left, the blue curve is starting to really shift left, and that's because these deltas are accelerating to 1 much sooner than the 100-110 spread. This is the part that people don't understand or just fail to really think about or recognize. So they start converging on their maximum gains at these points. But take a look. Remember, we had 404 for a max gain. I'm sorry, for a cost, and versus 342, which was a difference of 62 cents. Look at the max gains: 596 for the two 100-105s, and 658 for the 100-110. So they are shifted down. That blue curve is shifted down by 62 cents. It has to be, because they're both 10-point spreads in a roundabout way, but it's shifted down by 62 cents. So the maximum gain for the 100-110 is going to be bumped up by 62 cents. But again, you have to say, not a huge difference. But what are we battling here? Well, what we're battling is that there's our 62 cents difference, is this green area right here. This is the part that you need to understand. This is going to open up with the passage of time, this little area. And what that's showing you is that the blue curve sits higher than the red for all of these prices, all through here. Now, yes, if the stock sinks, we are going to take a slightly bigger loss, 404 versus 342. But you don't want to trade saying, I'm just trying to buy the cheapest thing I can to minimize losses. We have to take some risk. And yet we've really mitigated a lot of it with this vertical spread. But if we are wrong about the speed at which we're going to get there, speed, whether the stock moving or whether the time is moving, we're going to have a nice little edge with the two 100-105s. Now take a look at something else. You see where these two curves cross right there? That's called a crossover point. They play important roles in a lot of things with decisions, with options. Every strategy has at least one crossover point. Some will have two or more. But take a look where this is occurring. Here's 110, here's 115, just about halfway between it. So let's call it 112.50. And at that point, with 5 days to expiration, they are producing exactly the same results. So think about that. You take a lot more risk, which is why the red curve is cheaper, got less of a chance of getting to that maximum gain. Or we could also say the two 100-105s have a benefit because they have a higher probability and therefore they cost more. And that's why the blue curve again is sitting lower. But look what happens as we get closer to expiration. We're going to find that this crossover point is going to eventually hit right here at 110. But who's going to hold this spread with 5 days to go? You have got such a massive gamma position. We've talked about this before for all the traders who are in the webinars. Look at the curvature right here. You're sitting right at the strike of that short. And it could absolutely wipe you out, at least in terms of what you've put into this position, with a very small move in the stock. It's not so true with the curve in blue, because we're really getting closer to a zero gamma point, to a very flattened portion of this curve. And yet, look what's happening. If you are lucky enough to hold it within 5 days, in other words, less than that, 4 days, 3 days, 2, 1, the best you're going to squeeze out is another 62 cents. That's the only point when this red curve starts to sit higher than the blue. And you want to hold it within 5 days of that? Oh, I think that's a really bad, risky decision for 62 cents. But again, what if it takes slow? Now, if it does go to the moon like we originally thought, no harm done. We're just worse off by 62 cents. But what if it's slower? Or slower relative to the time is also moving and the stock. So it's always a relative movement. We've got this green area in here that is providing nice gains over a very wide range that we do not get with the wider spread. And that doesn't mean that the wider spread is bad. It's just that it's an added layer of risk that most traders don't consider. Okay, and so that's something I want everybody to really, these are other themes that we're going to talk about in future classes, about the characteristics of spreads outside of just the stock price moving. And this is a really important tip to help you make better decisions about hedges, rolls, morphs, and which strikes to use. And here's one of the simplest examples, which is why I wanted to start here. All right, so this is kind of a common little theme that we're going to do. It's always going to be some little specific point and just some things to think about. Now, for those of you who are part of the Market Rebellion group, or Market Rebels as we call them, you have the ability to ask questions. So usually in every one of these tune-ups, we're trying to set 10 or 15 minutes aside for Q&A. If you are watching from the live streams, you will not have that ability. So if you happen to, I don't know if you're seeing a chat box in there, but you won't be able to ask the questions. So I hope that makes sense. And there's a lot of really interesting things that go on with vertical spreads when you start looking at delta, gamma, theta, and vega. See, everybody, when they come from a stock trading world, they start looking at just stock direction. And that works for stock trading. It does not work for options trading. And here's a very good reason why. Now, little side note too, sometimes people will say, well, I want to take the wider spread, maybe buy the 100 call and sell the 120 because then I can roll the 100 call. And that's true, but you're going to have to give up at least $1 every time you roll it. And those are things we're going to look at in the future. And you will see, even if you are correct and you get to roll, because you're not going to roll $5 for $5 cash, not until expiration. And at that point, you're just swapping off cash for intrinsic value. It's not going to do you any good. So the point is that you have to say, once we start subtracting off these dollar hedges that we have to give up, you're going to find out there's just not a big difference. And yet you're taking a ton of additional risk. So these are some things we're going to talk about. And for anybody who trades vertical spreads, I know they're very popular regardless, but certainly in high volatility environments. But hopefully that will give you some things to think about. Now, also for everybody, whether you're part of Market Rebellion or not, Market Rebellion is offering a free 30-minute consultation or coaching session with one of our professional coaches. We have an amazing staff of coaches. Some like one has 29 years of market making experience on the Philly floor. We've got a number of them who are ex-market makers on various exchanges and in various products and futures and options. They can absolutely take you to a much higher level in a super short time. And this is one of the things that we want to show people. So please reach out. There's a phone number. It's 815-957-9125. Give them a call, get your free consultation, and certainly not going to hurt you. All right, but hopefully you're going to see that these are the things that they can all teach. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at